What's up, guys? I was just sitting around thinking about all the different sayings we're going to have to change now because of all this stuff that's going on with the bank runs. It started out last Friday with Silicon Valley Bank was being the first one, and now there are at least three other banks that are in real hot water, and the federal government's coming in to bail them out and all this stuff. But I was thinking, like, are we going to be able to say, like, that's as good as money in the bank? I mean, is that a thing anymore? Is that a saying anymore? We're going to have to change that, or you can take that to the bank, or, laughing all the way to the bank. Things like this. I mean, these are just several different, just right off the top of my head, three different ones I thought of that probably aren't going to be true anymore because of what Joe Biden and the people, the communists that he puts around him, have done to this country in, 2 years? Just a little over 2 years? They're wrecking the dollar. It's not about Silicon Valley Bank. It's about them destroying the dollar. But nevertheless, we're going to cover some of the headlines that I've seen here today that are pretty alarming. This first story here is developing. Moody's cuts outlook for entire U.S. banking sector. Puts 6 banks on downgrade watch. I mean, I think that's a pretty big deal. Now, am I telling you to run to the bank and take all your cash out of the bank and stuff like this? No, because I'm not a financial advisor. But some of those old timers with their mason jars and burying them out in the backyard, it's starting to make a lot more sense, especially as their economic policies are designed to take away from people that are saving money. The savers in the United States. We used to be rewarded. Now our savings are being robbed through inflation, stagflation, whatever you want to call it, hyperinflation. I mean, they're saying that inflation is up to 6%. I'm calling bullshit. It feels like it's 25%. Now, again, I'm not an economic expert or anything like that, but based on the tools that I buy, the groceries that my wife buys, the electricity rates, the fuel rates, everything that is involved in running a homestead, we've noticed about a 25% increase since Biden came in. And you can look at the inflation chart. If I can find it, I'll put it in here so you guys can see this because I think it's really important. You can look at this inflation chart, and people were blaming COVID on all the inflation. No, if you look at that chart, it shows that under Donald Trump, inflation was almost into the negatives at one point because of the COVID. And then when Biden came in, it skyrocketed. Why do you think that is? It's because he's printing us into oblivion. I saw something the other day, and don't quote me on this. I'm trying to do this one by memory. But basically they were saying that just in the time that Biden has been in office, they have actually put more money into circulation than the entire time of cash since like the creation of the Fed in like 1913, 1911, something like that. So in 2 years, Biden has put more money into circulation than the entire existence of the dollar had already had in it. I'm not explaining that right because, again, I'm not a financial guru. I don't know all these terms and stuff. But what I can tell you is this is the tip of the iceberg. These banks, especially these big woke corporations that have been pushing woke agendas and having a great ESG score and operating on this, what do they call it, inclusiveness and all this other stuff that they're worried about, right? Their policies are swirling down the toilet bowl because of wokeness, and there's no doubt about that. So next up here, we're going to talk about the Forbes curse. After being named one of the best banks in America, Silicon Valley Bank fails. And I'll throw in the financial guy, Jim Cramer. Almost every time that guy says go out and buy this certain company, like within a week or two, it fails. And so there's a lot of talk online that he's somehow, it's a conspiracy and that he's somehow working with these big conglomerates and probably getting kickbacks and stuff. I have no proof of that. It's just speculation and online rumors right now. But I wouldn't doubt it the way these snakes operate, man. I mean, this is crazy. Moody's cuts outlook on U.S. banking system to negative, citing rapidly deteriorating operating environment. I mean, that's Moody's. I think that's a pretty big deal. You might want to pay attention to that. And I'm not telling you to go down and get all your money out of the bank. I don't think most of the small, for lack of a better descriptor, mom and pops banks, the smaller state banks and stuff, I don't think most of them are in the same sort of danger that these larger, too big to fail banks are in. So you don't have to necessarily run down there, but it might be a good idea from this day forward to start keeping a little bit more of your money in cash form, because my opinion is the reason they're doing this It's twofold. One, massive new evidence is coming out on a daily basis about the real truth about what happened on January 6th. It's not the insurrection painting that the Democrats and the January 6th committee and all these people have been painting, and Mitch McConnell and all these other people, the rhinos and all this stuff that have been saying that January 6th was an insurrection. Now it's coming out that no, that's not what actually happened. A lot of those people were being led in. The Q shaman was being led around, the floor of the Senate. The officer Sicknick didn't actually get hit in the head with a fire extinguisher and killed by the January 6th protesters. No. In fact, what the story is showing me, that is one time when you could actually use the phrase mostly peaceful protest and it would be accurate. The majority of people that I saw on video and have seen up to this date on January 6th were mostly peaceful. I mean, we're talking about like a lot of these, grandmas for Trump and stuff like that. Do you think they were the ones breaking the windows, or was it quite possibly Antifa and FBI and who knows what other alphabet agencies had troops on the ground there to cause chaos, to cause groupthink, mob mentality to take over and start breaking windows and stuff like that? That's what I think. It was an operation, and at some point they let all the rest in. And we're seeing a massive injustice. Well, you got to take away from that. When your narrative is falling apart, you have to distract people with other things. What's the most important thing to most people in the United States of America? Consumerism. How do you have consumerism? You have to have money in the bank, right? Or money in your hand, which is probably worth more right now than two in the bush over at the bank. So anyway, cheering Silicon Valley Bank bailout, Gavin Newsom doesn't mention he's a client. Isn't that interesting? So he was out there tooting the horn about Biden's bailout, who Biden says it's not a bailout, but it really is a bailout. So again, we're in the realm of Orwellian 1984 reality. It's no longer a fictional book. This is reality. They will do something. You will see them doing it. You'll see a person walking. And you'll go confront them and say, hey, I saw you walking earlier today. No. I wasn't walking. I was jogging. It's this misdirection. It's unreal. It'd be like, somebody actually got caught red-handed, murdering someone. They had blood on their hands. They were holding the murder weapon. They ran out. They were on video. Everyone saw it happen, right? And then they're denying that it's actually happened. This is what's going on in the Biden administration. And that's why I say it's Orwellian, and it's doublespeak, and it's changing the definitions of words and the meaning of what is a woman and all. You guys have seen it. So let's get into this next one here. Revealed. Only one member of failed SVB board had a career in investment banking. Can you believe that? And the rest were Obama, Clinton, mega donors who grieved when Trump won, including one who went to Shinto shrine to pray because, Trump won. Are they grieving now that all of their clients in their bank, where they're a board member, they have responsibility for taking action on this stuff? And what about the other board members that I've been hearing about that were withdrawing millions and millions and millions of dollars before this bank collapsed last Friday? Are they going to be held to account? Or are they going to get bailed out by Biden because they're Obama, Clinton, mega donors? That would be my guess. So this one guy, Tom King, 63, the only member of Silicon Valley Bank Board who had any experience in investment banking. I mean, does that make any sense? Or do you want people that are on your board that know about investment banking? I think that would be the case. But no, these people bought their way in through political favors and donating to the right political candidates. The others were major Obama, Clinton mega donors, including one who cried when Trump won in 2016. Anyway, the board is now being investigated for its failure to act ahead of the bank's collapse. And some argue, including me, that it was because of their woke agenda that caused them to collapse. You ever heard the phrase, get woke, go broke? I think that applies here. Joe Biden, though, he's going to come save the day. Joe Biden, he vows to prevent future bank collapses under his watch. Meanwhile, I'm getting reports. I saw one on Zero Hedge that it's not the big banks that are in trouble. In fact, the big banks are getting a lot of infusion of cash right now. It's the smaller local banks that are having a hard time because people are worried they're not going to be able to access their money. They're hearing these rumors online on Twitter and stuff like this of a bank run, and some people are going out and getting a lot of their cash or all of their cash out if they're allowed to. Although I would argue if you have more than about 10 grand, you're going to have a heck of a time getting that out of the bank in one lump sum, especially in cash money. You can probably transfer it somewhere else, but honestly, I don't know if I'd be playing that game right now. Bitcoin went through the roof again. Now, I don't advise people to get invested in something like that. I guess in a way, it's as real as the US dollar, because we can't forget what the US dollar really is. It's an IOU. It's backed by nothing. It used to be backed by gold and silver and precious metals and things like that. And I believe it was the early 70s under President Nixon's watch, they got us off the gold standard. And we went to this new thing called the petrodollar, where all these foreign Middle Eastern nations were going to be forced to use the US dollar as their reserve currency. Now there's new stuff popping up like BRICS and other groups that are threatening the dominance of the petrodollar. And responsible spending and responsible investing by our federal government would have probably set a lot of the foreign investors' minds at ease, and they wouldn't be looking to other alternatives outside of the petrodollar. They'd be happy with the petrodollar, but we have spent trillions and trillions and trillions like it's going out of style, like it doesn't mean anything. And you put enough money into circulation, eventually it doesn't mean anything. You can look at some of the bills from like Zimbabwe, and we all know the story about the Weimar Republic, where you had to take a wheelbarrow of money down to get a loaf of bread. That could be coming to the United States of America. So I advise you, prep up. If you haven't done anything, it's going to be an uphill battle for you, but there's still time to do it. Beans, rice, precious metals like lead, bullets, stuff like that you might need, spare magazines, spare accoutrements, somebody mentioned last time in one of the videos that I did, like a spring kit for whatever platform you have. If you have an AR-15, get a spare replacement spring kit for that, and extra springs for your magazines and things like that, because when this thing goes down, it may take decades. It may never come back to what it is right now. So this may be your last chance to go out and get stocked up on the things that could save your life. Last night, my wife and I were watching one of our quail eggs hatch, and I looked over at her and I was like, you know what that is, right? She's like, what? I was like, better than money in the bank. That's something that, you could get into quail or chickens or rabbits or all three like I have done. Everything you can grow in your suburb or city backyard and get away with it. You should probably be doing that right now, especially if you're a meat eater. You should be probably looking at animal husbandry and learning how to take care of animals. Because, in my opinion, that bean stockpile you have, that lead and ammunition that you have, maybe gunpowder, if you know how to reload and stuff like that, that would be a really important skill to have going into a collapse situation. Am I saying this is the collapse? Not necessarily, but I'm worried about it being the collapse of the US dollar because they have ulterior motives. They want to bring in a digital currency so they can control and monitor every single thing you do. Oh, you want to go buy a beer at the bar or whatever? The federal government will know how many beers you've had that night, or whatever. Or you want to go buy a pack of cigarettes, or you want to go buy whatever else it might be, a box of condoms, or feminine products for your wife or whatever. They will know every single thing that you do, when you do it, how high you jump when you did it, where you went. They'll be able to track everything. And I think the long-term goal is they want to put a chip inside your body to get rid of the cell phone apps and things like that. You'll just have an app that'll go to maybe your forehead or your wrist or whatever, and that'll be your mark, and you will not be able to buy, sell, or trade without that mark. The mark of the beast system. They're trying to implement it. It's clear as day if you have eyes to see. So you might want to go read your Bible a little bit and look at that part in Revelations where they start talking about when all hell breaks loose on the face of the earth, because I feel like we're in that part of history right now. So that's just my thoughts. Again, am I saying you should go out and bury all your cash in mason jars? No. Not necessarily, but you might want to figure out things to do outside of having all of your investments in cash. In other words, invest in things that could save your life in the future. Guys, let me know what you think about this. Is this a canary in the coal mine? Is this the beginning of the end of the US dollar, as I fear? And they're going to come in with their savior, the CBDC, who, wouldn't you know it, they were just test running it just a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago or whatever. They decided to test run the CBDC and see how it was going to work. Could this be an indication that they're fixing to roll that out? Let me know what you guys are thinking about, what you're worried about down in the comments. As for me, I'm going to keep prepping. I'm going to keep increasing my quail flock until I can feed myself and barter with other people with those goods in the future. The one thing that does worry me is being able to get feed for all these different animals. So that'd be something that if you have livestock, probably be a good idea instead of having cash constantly losing value sitting in a savings account. Maybe you should take some of that money and figure out a way to buy a bulk amount of feed. That way you can go, at least several months without worrying about feeding your animals. Just things to think about, guys. Let me know what you're doing down in the comments to get prepped up. Are you taking all your money out of the bank, putting it in mason jars, or going to the gun store and buying everything you need? What are you doing? Buying extra clothes? Extra medicines? Whatever you might need, you better get it now while the getting's good.